Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the Jade Gemini. Hey, today I actually was inspired by Metal Complex actually making a video. He said top 5 knives that actually make you go, oh, right? And not to be cynical or pessimist, but this actually got me thinking 5 knives that make you go, oh, like the ones that got away, the ones that were really super special. You know, in this knife hobby, we're constantly buy, sell, trade, things like that. And so today I've actually ended up going ahead and bringing out some memories, because of course I don't have these knives, right? So they're photos, and I'll talk a little bit about what made these knives special. Starting out with this though, this is definitely one that could be on that list, and I just will not let it. You know, this knife, Ferum, Exxon, I say it's my favorite knife I've ever had because of the action and the multiple deployment methods, but you know, they're a little rare and they have some value. And this is a knife that you could easily say, well, you know, if I sell this and I sell this, and then I'd have enough to buy like a sub-benzo or something like that. So, you know, I always say, no, this is going to be the 6th one on the list if you let it. So this better stay around forever. So that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and start with our first knife on the list, which we're going to start with this. So this is the Wee Malice. So Wee Malice, interesting story behind this knife. I like Ferum forged designs, and this knife really made me realize that, you know, very Spyderco-ish with the handle like the Shaman, this very forward choil up front. So I actually had this knife in the tiger stripe and absolutely loved it. I sat it on the table one day, and when I went to pick it up like a couple of days later, had a humongous scratch along the front itself, and it ended up getting just moved, you know, by my wife. She didn't like jar it to the side or anything, but it had a 4-inch scratch across all the flame tiger stripe anodization on the titanium, and I just couldn't unsee it. So I sold it, and then I looked all around, you know, and this was in the heart of COVID when things were already, you know, kind of sold out, and I found this one at Knife Ship Free, which definitely check them out, great shop. And they ended up having this titanium one, so I got it just as magic, you know, amazing ergonomics, feels tanky in the hand, built very extremely well by Wee. You know, pretty smooth action. I did wish it had a more drop shut action, you know, like with that heavier blade and everything, but the best thing about this knife, other than the way it looks, is just how it cuts. It slices like a Neutron Splitter. It is insane. And it has a big old chunk of M390, you know, up front, a great pocket clip, just all around great knife. I ended up selling it because, again, for some reason this one, it ended up having like a grindiness in the action that I just couldn't oil out, or I couldn't like wear in. It was just like consistently there. And also the knife was like off-centered no matter what you were doing. With like such a high-end knife that's right at that $300 door knocking, I don't think it should, you know, have an off-centered, you know, blade centering. So I ended up going ahead and selling it, and definitely one that I absolutely love and with fondness, that it's the first one that got away. The second one that ended up going ahead and getting away is this guy. And until I saw it, I was like, oh wait, yeah, I should put that on there, because I was trying to think of different ones. So this is the titanium, it's a titanium exclusive from Urban EDC Supply. That's what I was trying to think of. So it is tight, raw tie, has these really cool lightning holes in the titanium itself. Not a liner lock, frame lock, M390 blade. So this one I actually ended up trading Taylor Martin for, which, you know, at the time felt cool to have, you know, a popular YouTuber like him have one of his knives. And when I got it, just was a really great knife, amazing in the hand. I like Vox a lot as a designer. You know, again, this was back when, you know, a couple years ago when M390 wasn't as super common and then everything like it. We've been lucky enough to have it today. This was a little bit more rare. Now, you can kind of see in the picture, it had been kind of sharpened from a blunted tip. So it kind of had this edge that gets thick, that it's laid back at the tip, and it also had some detent lash. And although I love the knife because it did have great cutting performance as well, it was fun to take apart. It was kind of easy, almost like a Sabenza. You just take the bolts out, it comes right apart, goes right back together. But again, just with the pivot lash and the edge, it's just kind of wore on me over time. The problem about this knife too, and why I don't ever think I'll get it back, is I just honestly think these knives are way too overpriced. It's a small knife, which again isn't a big deal, but it's right there at $300, and you could get a Vero, or you could get maybe a slightly used Chavez, or so many other amazing knives for this price. And again, the Italians aren't always the best with their quality control, with gritty action, sharpening angle, and different things like that. So, realistically, I think this knife should probably be, anywhere from, $50 to $70 less than what they advertise it. So unfortunately, this is one I never think I'll get back in the collection, which is certainly a shame because it is such a great knife. And another one that got away. This one is a huge knife that got away, and this is the Riot Bushido. So this was actually my first experience with Riot, and I was insanely impressed with the quality, as they are known for. Alpinist, by the way. So basically, this knife, I've never really been into carbon fiber. I always felt like I want to love carbon fiber because, I always think of like the dashboard of my McLaren F1, or, just, being a car freak and everything like that. It's just so cool to have that material. But like flat carbon fiber scales, it just always doesn't do anything for me. It kind of feels hollow and soulless. While this, has that carved, contoured, it picks up the light in every way. It was absolutely gorgeous. Plus, think of the action of a Pena, right, on this knife. It also had titanium liners, that were on the inside, liner lock, front flipper, and the most important is it is right up my alley with the aesthetic, with this Japanese-inspired, clearly with the name Bushido. Fortunately, I bought this knife, and I thought it was a time that, I really shouldn't have bought a knife, that was around that price, which was around to like $230, $240. And so I ended up going ahead and returning it after just fidgeting it a little while and, taking a picture or something like that. And I really regret it now, because now I've found out that it was a limited edition run, and these just don't go up for sale. So I'll probably never be able to get one, and it irks me to death because it is such a cool knife that I got compliments on. People are like, what is that? And just the aesthetic is just 100% what I want. Being such a big fan of, Japan, growing up in the 90s, and just, all of that stuff. So that's definitely one that hardcore got away. Oh, I didn't even need to do this on purpose. Okay. This is another one that got away tenfold. And so this is an LUTT Microtech automatic side opening knife. This I actually ended up buying after I bought a ProTech, after all the hype that ProTechs are the best automatics and everything like that. So I bought a tier 3 operator with the tritium in it, and the knife looked cool enough and felt pretty good ergonomically in the handle. This one must have honestly been defective. You'd push it and the blade would come out slowly, slower than even, like a Boker Kalashnikov or something. It was less impressive than something like that, which I'm not saying anything against the Kalashnikov, right? If it was at that level, I'd be like, oh, okay. It was worse than that, right? So noticeably so, it would open and then sort of bounce back and then not seat, which was dangerous to not seat, with the button lock. So long story short, bad experience in my mouth with ProTech, returned it, saw this on Omaha Knife, which is a great, retailer, one that doesn't get as much attention, so definitely check those guys out. But ended up buying this, and it's literally like my most perfect example of my favorite color ever. It is such an aggressive, like blurple purple, violet, oversaturated purple, which is my favorite color ever. And my God, this thing slices insane. It's also very cool because it is like the first Microtech, of my knowledge, I think, that he actually made. And unfortunately, the action's amazing as well. Pretty solid lockup, everything like that. And this actually went to warranty because it had some DLC that was flaking off from the factory, and they replaced the blade for free. So good on Microtech's customer service. Ended up selling it like a dummy, kind of like I said with what sometimes comes to my mind with this, well, hey, there's this, I can sell this and that, and then get something hyper premiums because. And you just don't need that. If you love it for that, not because it's not in the next tier or, you're trying to impress or anything like that, right? But anyways, ended up going ahead and selling this knife, and I hyper regret it because the LUDTs are nowhere to be found in this COVID world. You cannot find them. They are insanely expensive, when you can end up going ahead and come across one, and this blurple, purple color is basically nowhere to be found unless you're looking at the Exoit, that fat wide money clip, which I'm not really interested in. So if ever one comes up across, I think I'm gonna have to pull the trigger unless it's over, priced, but I don't even know if that will ever happen because they're so insanely rare. So definitely one that got away. The last I saved is the biggest. This knife makes me sick whenever I think about the fact that I got rid of it and I see pictures of it because it is so, it's my favorite knife I think I've ever owned, right? The Vero's very, much with what I have right now and everything. But again, there's just a couple different things about this knife. This is a Microtech Troodon. I'm not the biggest Microtech fan, but they just make good knives, right? I haven't had 100 of them, but this to me, again, just meets all those things I've talked about with kind of like the Bushido and other knives. One, I've always had a bad experience with OTS because they've been hard for me to open. This one feels big in the hand, feels like a worker, but has sort of the ease of use of like the 85. UTX 85 versus the full Ultratech, which is pretty hard to open. It also just is like so aesthetically gorgeous. It just looks like it's moving in your hands. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so many lines and flows and curves and ergonomics, even though it's kind of like this stick, right? And grip, and just, it's so bad ASS, in a nutshell of a knife. And I ended up trading a knife that was $250 that was kind of rare in Damascus for a Medford, and then that definitely put me up a level and into a different sector, and I traded that Medford for this. So this is like a $450 knife, that I basically got for $250, and I had it for such a long time and loved it, and like an idiot, like we said, buy, sell, trade, just because you're like, well, that's kind of interesting, I'd like to check. And made a big, humongous mistake and ended up going ahead and selling this guy and just regret it all the time. And again, with this sort of price point, do I think, even though it's like my, everything has to have a value mentally for you, right? If a Sabenza is your favorite knife ever, but then now it's $650, is it really worth it for you to say, it's still my favorite knife, I'm going to blind... So it's sort of the same situation. If this was $300, $330, over time I would save up and make it work, right? But at the price that they charge for it, when it's so close to like an Ultratech, it's really hard to get into that $400 range. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to get this knife back when it is definitely the biggest one that I regret of all my knives. So that is, in short, 5 knives that make me go, oh, that ended up going ahead and unfortunately selling and are not in the collection. So with this, I would actually like to challenge back the person who inspired me for this. I would like to actually end up challenging a Metal Complex to make 5 knives that made you go, oh, the ones that got away. As well, I would like to challenge Jared from Neve's Knives. He's a great guy. Go ahead and follow both of their channels. He's actually been helping me on how to improve this channel, as a starting up channel. And as well, I'd like to challenge an upcoming channel, Brother of the Knives, to make 5, if he has 5 that he ended up getting rid of that make him say, oh. So that's the video. If you have 5 knives, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. And please go ahead and hit that subscribe button since you're down there, and give this video a like, as it definitely helps, and there's more content to go and come. And I love growing the community and being able to go ahead and talk with you guys. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this video. There's so many other great videos you could be watching from great creators, and you've taken time to watch mine, so I really appreciate that. I hope everybody has a great weekend coming up, and stay safe. Peace.